I've got the most experience using kind of like a batch composting, where you will have successive bins of material.
At my house, we have a green composting bucket that it's a special bucket made especially for composting, and it closes and it has a little air filtration system on it so that you don't get fruit flies in there and it doesn't smell. It's a really nice, clean process.
Well, we're really fortunate in Seattle because we can compost virtually any kind of food waste. The city is able to send all of our yard waste, sticks, leaves, grass clippings, and also all of our food scraps, including meat, dairy, pizza boxes, bones, regular vegetable and fruit scraps. And they send it to this place called Cedar Grove, which is a big composting facility.
We compost everything at my house. I compost leftover vegetables if I'm cooking and I have peels left over or skin from garlic. I compost eggshells, coffee grinds, cheese, bread crust, leftover
I compost because I think that food waste in any variety is rich organic matter, and there's no reason why that material needs to go to a landfill, because what sits in a landfill mixed with chemicals, batteries, plastics, all kinds of oils and other toxic things, then those nutrients, those organic nutrients and those rich nutrients that we can use to build soil are pretty much lost to us forever. So I kind of see composting as part of a big cycle between agriculture, our use, and then kind of giving back to the soil, to the earth, for both the sake of the environment, if you will, but also for the sake of people. There's no reason why we should be throwing away things that are perfectly great for us to use.
Well, I feel really privileged to live in a city where I have the ability to compost. Seattle picks up your compost waste just right outside of your house, and so instead of throwing away garbage into the trash can, I compost things because all of those leftover food waste can be turned into soil, and that can help grow other things, and I really like the process of reusing my waste rather than just throwing it into a landfill.
Composting significantly reduces the amount of waste that we produce. Before we were composting, we would, I don't know if I have a true estimate of how much we produce, but if you're cooking with a lot of vegetables or fruits, at the end of cutting up a bunch of things, you've got this little mound that's maybe the size of a softball, so that becomes waste unless you decide to make it into compost. So if you thought about a bit of material that large from every meal or from every day, and then thought about how many of those would fit inside a garbage bag, probably within a week or 2 weeks, you would have, I think at least from our usage, we'd have probably a full garbage bag just of vegetable scraps, fruit scraps, things like that. So by not throwing that stuff away, we really, really cut down our waste. So that composting and recycling, and also thinking about the containers that we buy and the packaging that we buy, produce very, very little trash, and that's a good feeling.
Well, our trash can now only has things that are real trash that can't be reused. So instead of having like a huge trash bag that's leaky and gross because there's coffee grinds and like mushy fruit, now it's just a drier bag and there's a lot less stuff in it.
Well, if you're going to be doing it in your backyard, certainly there's a little bit of maintenance that needs to take place, and that would include some shoveling, some turning of the compost with maybe a pitchfork, but pretty minimal, honestly, as far as getting the food waste from your kitchen to the compost pile. There's a very minimal amount of work, and that would be essentially just finding some kind of container with a lid that is kind of airtight, Tupperware, an old bucket, even a metal jar, an old peanut butter jar, and just putting the food material in there until it's ready to go out to the yard, and then just dumping it out, and then maybe giving that container a rinse.
I think sometimes I might not feel this personally because I really like composting, but having to take it out to the trash can outside of my house is probably the most difficult part.
I think people are kind of scared of any kind of item that they consider to be trash. So it's interesting that when you're eating an apple, it's food. But as soon as you finish eating the apple and it's just a core, it's garbage. And I think there's this perception that anything post-consumer in any way is just trash and it's worth nothing and needs to be thrown away. So I think that people have this perspective that food waste is really gross, that it smells, that it's harmful or in some way can make you sick. And that it's just garbage. So I think that people, are just kind of tentative about getting started for some of those reasons.
Other people don't compost for a few reasons. Maybe lack of education on why composting has benefits. Maybe it's not as easy for them to do because there isn't. So for people that live in an apartment building, maybe they don't have a pickup system from the city to collect their compost. And maybe they're just not even aware that it's a possibility.